The weird thing is that I have experienced bed trembling in the middle of the night before here, but it was only very subtle. So I thought, oh, perhaps I'm imagining it. Perhaps I've just woken up from a dream, or perhaps I've been snoring quite loud and my iron bed frame has been trembling.
You've woken yourself up, yes.
Because we do, in the Cairncross family, have a propensity to snore, especially if you've got the nose with the hook in it.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Hello, caller.
Hello. Where am I? We're recording, yes. I'm sharing, yes. You're here. Hurrah.
Is that your tick list? Recording, sharing, Judith.
Yes.
If I may say, that's in the wrong order. We need Judith first, otherwise the other points are meaningless. Yeah.
Oh, you crack on. Go on, tell us what you've been up to.
Oh, God, Nicola, it's been well, first of all, we're recording on a Saturday today, which is 48 hours later than normal. And I rescheduled, most unlike me, I think you'll agree, I rescheduled you from Thursday to Friday because I was moving house, and then from Friday to Saturday because I'd had no sleep at all on Thursday night, which was full moon night and my first night at this house, I think. Anyway, whatever. I couldn't drag myself out of bed yesterday morning. And this morning I'm lying in bed and I've worked out how the central heating works here now. So it was really toasty warm. And I'm lying there thinking, oh, I don't think I can do it. Do I have the cojones to say to Nicola, I can't do it again, let's do it on another day. And then I asked myself, new clairsentient Judith said, well, what's this all about then? And answer came, and it's totally illogical because so many of our emotions are, aren't they? They're not about logic. It was, if we lay down number 201, we'll be obliged to do another 200, which of course is absolute nonsense, but that's what my inner bird, as one of my clients calls her, is feeling this morning.
Oh. Well, I don't know what to say.
Well, there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. I mean, I'm recording it in utter authenticity of the highest. Normally, I wouldn't say something like that, but I thought I'd try and explain to you why I've rescheduled twice this week. But the first reason why I had to reschedule, and which has sort of dominated my week, is that last Friday afternoon at 1:10, when I had a Reiki appointment for my knees at 1:30, I fell over again.
Oh, no.
I was at home alone because my housemate was away for 5 days while her godmother had a pacemaker fitted, and she was 5 hours away. And at 1:10, I thought, well, it's a bit early to go round to Holistic Helen. What shall I do that's useful? I know, I'll bring the dustbins in. And I brought the wheelie bin in, no problem at all, because it's got wheels and there's a handle, so you're quite safe. And then I brought in the 3 recycling bins, which are cardboard, food, and bottles and cans. And I've got all 3 of them in each other, like, I don't know what you call it, stacking things.
Russian dolls.
Yes, Russian dolls. And I'd got my winter boots on for the first day. Not quite altogether sure why I decided to wear my winter boots there, because it was beautifully blue sky and sunny, but I decided probably to do with packing, I would think. I probably packed everything and they were the only things. Anyway, put my winter boots on and forgot that as you go down the side path, outside the bathroom window, there's a trench, a sort of a sinkhole in the tarmac where somebody'd probably made a running repair to the plumbing in the bathroom and the level wasn't level. And I put my boot in it, unable to see it because it's underneath the 3 bins. And there I am again on the floor, falling on my knees with my hands full of dustbins. And ouchie, ouchie, ouch, ouch. What happens, because we know from the last time it happens, is blissfully, I don't know how I got away with it a second time, no breakages. Terrible pain, lots of stones there, so I'm falling on stones on top of tarmac, and I'm sitting there at 1:10 thinking, oh my God, I'm due at Helen's at 1:30. I honestly don't think I can get up. So I could hear neighbours, so I sat there and I cried, help, 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 and nobody came. So after about, I don't know, felt like an eternity, but let's call it 5 minutes, I thought, well, I've got to get up, got to get myself up. And I had no idea how I was going to do that, because the only way to do it, the only way for me to get up when I'm sitting or lying on the ground is to somehow turn over onto my knees. You know how you get up from a sitting on the ground position. You've got to kneel, haven't you? And of course, I can't kneel on my knees because they hurt like fury. And I knew there were stones underneath me, and I knew it was going to hurt like, but I managed to do that somehow, and I'm very wobbly by now because I'm having this huge adrenaline spike. And I go into the house and I get my handbag and I get my car keys, and I thought, well, let's go to Holistic Helen, because frankly, if she can do any healing at 1:30, which was already an appointment for my knees, that was probably the best thing to do. And she is an absolute love bucket. So I did manage to make it there, and I was shocked and wobbly, and it was a wonderful session, so I was glad I made it. But you and I were trying to do something together, weren't we? And I said, I'm so sorry, I can't help you today, I just have to do it by yourself. And then I came home, cancelled a meeting with my clients, which I never do. But what else? Oh yes, evil bruising. Ooh. Nothing broken, not even the skin. Oh no, I lied. This time I did graze my arm, like one of those playground burns you have, when you fall over in the playground and it goes, anyway, horrid. And I had to warn the people I was due to spend Saturday with that I might not make it. But somehow I did. I don't know. Judith Morgan is made of really stern stuff. Yeah. I got up in the morning and I drove about an hour. My older school friend Leslie invented Jenga.
Yes.
Her younger sister Susan, who was also at boarding school with me, lives right next door to what was my grandparents' farm up until 1960. And she made an appointment for me because her friend lives there now and is married to the current farmer. But the current farmer's parents, who bought it from my grandparents in 1963, were there aged 89 and 90 on a stick and looking forward to seeing me, and made some homemade biscuits and everything. So Sue and I went round. It was absolutely lovely. Blue sky, beautiful. The grandparents were just like my own grandparents. The grandma wouldn't let me go. It was a terribly moving trip with memories in this little chapel on the farm that I was christened in. And we sat, I think Sue probably was a bit bored, but the four of us sat in there and reminisced, and they really didn't want me to leave, but we had to leave because Leslie was streaming live from TEDx Vienna after lunch. So Sue and I had to go home to have lunch with her cousin who's looking after her mother who's got Alzheimer's in home. I mean, terribly complicated day, but I went along with all of this. I'm sorry this is such a long section. This was my last-ish week in the West Country, so I decided that I would go and have lunch with my cousin Jane in our pub in Dorchester on Monday, which I did, and that was lovely. And she gave me a goodie bag, which I wasn't expecting, that had all these lovely things in it. And good job she did, because when I was going out to supper with Jack and Sarah on Tuesday, who are the son and daughter-in-law of my cousin Robert, who also feels very emotional about the farm, I broke the strap on my pink handbag, the one that you will remember had the evil spell on it last week. Yes, well, this week the strap broke, and I'm probably going to have to give it a decent burial along with some shoes that, anyway, I'm going to have to leave it behind in Somerset, which I feel quite relieved about in a funny sort of way. But thank goodness cousin Jane had given me a goodie bag, because I've only got one handbag and I broke it on Tuesday night. Now, the Crystal lady and I are arguing the toss in emails about what this means. She thinks it means there's something I can't handle. And I think it means, well, you've probably read yesterday's newsletter, that I don't need a safe anymore for my possessions. But that's been my week, really. The fall dominating everything, the house move, 2 nights sleepless, visit to the farm, broke my handbag, lovely final visits to West Country folk who I've become very fond of this summer, and this bonkers concern that if we laid down 201 today, we'd have to do another 200. That's my week. I did warn you it was a long bit. Well, my next bit's short. That's the good news.
I think after all the lovely messages of last week, I definitely feel inspired to carry on.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Especially in view of the fact that bits that most people liked weren't the businessy bits. They were the bits where we just ramble on about our lives.
And they love the tune And there was that wonderful message from the woman who loved the bits at the beginning, the little teaser sections.
Well, that's great because
she said they're a right laugh.
Well, I'm glad somebody else appreciates, because I have to listen to the show and try and pick out the bit that's going to go at the beginning. I know. And then copy and paste it and then come back in. So it's a bit
and some weeks you don't do it because we're not funny enough.
Well, to be honest, I think I could always find a funny bit if I tried hard enough, but some weeks I didn't feel like it. But I
know. Well, there you go. I think you see authenticity, Mark 3 here, which is it's a big job, and some weeks we don't feel like it.
Yeah. But I do feel much more invigorated and inspired for having listened to all those lovely messages. So that's really cool. So
tell me about the rest of your week.
Well, I too have had a sleepless-esque night. I woke up the night before last, to my bed trembling, Judith.
Oh my God, you had an earthquake?
Yes.
Oh, I think I read that somewhere, actually. Yes, my client who lives in quite a long way away from you in Greece marked herself safe in an earthquake. I didn't think about it.
There's been quite a few over the last week, but the one that was making my bed tremble, like it has never trembled.
Yes, let's go there, eh?
It was in Zakynthos, which is...
So what you're telling me is the earth moved, Nicola.
Yeah, quite.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom, indeed. And but the weird thing is that I have experienced bed trembling in the middle of the night before here, but it was only very subtle. So I thought, perhaps I'm imagining it. Perhaps I've just woken up from a dream, or perhaps I've been snoring quite loud and my iron bed frame has been trembling.
You've woken yourself up, yes.
Because we do in the Cairncross family have a propensity to snore, especially if you've got the nose with the hook in it, which I do in the grand tradition of my granddad, which is not good news for the next future Mr. Cairncross.
No, indeed. But you know, don't you, that if we were both a lot lighter, snoring goes away?
Well, it doesn't actually, Judith. Even when I was at my most slim, I snored like...
You were still a snorer. Oh dear, you're a proper snorer then, aren't you?
Yeah. But there is a new gadget I would like to try, which is a thing that you put under your own pillow and it shifts your head slightly when you start to snore. So it detects the vibrations, shifts your head, and apparently that's enough to relieve your...
let me recommend this to you. This is what I always thought would be lovely. There's a marvellous... You remember Mary Wesley, who started writing novels when she was, I think, 60 or 70? She wrote The Chamomile Lawn and various other books like that, and I read them all. She had this marvellous arrangement where her husband and wife had two houses next door to one another, and he lived and slept in his, and she lived and slept in hers, but the wardrobe would move and somebody could come through the bedroom wall when desire was on the cards.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. Here's a bit of 6 degrees of separation for you.
Ah, okay.
My friend Philippa, who is a filmmaker who lives down in the West Country, funny enough.
Oh.
She grew up in Brighton and we've been friends since we were very young, about 17 or 18. She lived in Mary Wesley's house.
Ah.
So there you go.
You don't remember where it was, do you?
Well, it was a big one. It was a beautiful big one down in the West Country.
I'll Google it later.
Or somewhere. It was the one she wrote when she was talking about Chamomile Lawn.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lovely house. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay. I think they only just sold it, in fact. So there you go. It was a 6.8 on the Richter scale, but now I have an app which will alert me as to any earthquakes forthcoming in my area. And the other thing you do is it's got quite a nice little thing where you go, yes, I felt it. And then you select from a series of pictures that tell the scientists at the earthquake centre how strong it was in your area, which enables them to work out how far the ripples, as it were.
Well, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, because you're involved in a science experiment. My brother and family lived in Tokyo. Tokyo has earthquakes, and they were very well versed in how to behave, what you hide under, where you stand, what the procedure is. I mean, they were quite serious ones. And this week, there have been, why do I keep calling it hurricanes? That's because it's my emergency. What are these things called? Earthquakes somewhere in the UK where they've started fracking again.
Yeah, I know, that's a worrying thing, isn't it?
It is a worry, yeah.
Yeah. So the weather's been fantastic on and off. We've had the odd storm which has knocked out the electricity and internet for Saturday.
Oh, yes, I saw Sarah saying that. Yeah.
Saturday was bad. Which, added to the fact we're sharing a laptop, is really quite difficult.
Yeah. Well, earthquakes, sharing a laptop and electric out. Oh,
I know. I have got to go and buy a Calagas stove from Katerina's upstairs because I want to be able to make a cup of tea if the lights go out.
But it makes you realise, doesn't it, how important the mod cons are. I have central heating today for the first time since I left London in March 2017, or it certainly feels like that. Central heating that I can control, and it's like, oh, I'm in heaven. Heaven.
You do like it a bit toasty, don't you?
Oh, I love it toasty. Yeah.
So you're going to laugh your socks off when you hear
Try
this.
me.
I have been to a production by the local Am Dram Society.
Of?
It was Ian Hislop's play, A Bunch of Amateurs.
And
it was based on a bunch of amateur Am Dram people doing a production of King Lear. So it was an Am Dram production doing an Am Dram production who were doing King Lear badly.
now, so far it's not funny. What could be funny is you about to tell me that actually you completely fell in love with Am Dram and you're joining.
No, that's what everyone wants me to say, but
Okay.
I'm still resisting that.
Okay.
Because, but I did enjoy it a lot more than I expected. I did resist going for a while, but it was €15 for the production and your dinner.
And was it in English?
Yes, it was in English. Yes, it was.
And were your mateys in it?
It was a very English affair. Let me tell you.
Were your mateys in it?
Well, one of my mateys someone who I know was in it,
Yeah.
so I wanted to support them. But one of my mateys was one of the scene movers.
Okay.
So he was moving shifting furniture around.
Right.
And he did a very good job, Roy. Well done. And it was just a great evening. It was in a really nice restaurant that's got a stage area. So, you know, and they honestly, the waiters' faces were an absolute picture because they didn't know what to make of it all at all. And they had to remove quite a lot of the swearing because apparently when he wrote it originally, there was quite a lot of swearing in it, which is a shame, really, because the swearing would have been funny. But, Sarah sat there and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, my God, you're so going to get involved in this, aren't you?" No, I'm not.
No.
But I will go to the next production because it was very good.
Have you ever wanted to act?
Darling, when I was 7 or 8, I wrote a play, I directed a play, and I starred in a play.
Well, I would have to be on that end. Yes, I'd have to be on the clipboard bossing everybody about end, like some evil person in The Archers who always did that for the Christmas pantomime. But, no, it has no appeal for me at all, I have to say.
Yeah, well,
on either end, on the stage or in the audience.
Well, obviously, at 7 or 8, I was unbearably precocious because
Yes,
I
indeed.
have a very abiding memory of writing the play, directing the play, and starring in the play.
Yes.
And I remember the part I played was Percival Ramsbottom. I had a very penchant for ridiculously posh, silly names.
Well, you did even when I knew you, Hermione Fugley.
Of course. Yes, I've forgotten Hermione Fugley. Which is really weird, isn't it? Because Paul Fugle was the client that inspired that name. And Sarah's working with him now, which is really interesting after all these years. Sharing a computer has fueled my fire because
that's interesting.
I know, because it forces you to focus.
It does.
We've had 1 day without power and internet. We've had 2 days where we've had to drive to Kalamata, one to go to drop Sarah's laptop off and then the other one to go and pick it up because obviously they couldn't get the part in time, so she was going to have to go back to England and we had to pick up her laptop. We could have done it on the way through to the airport, but thought probably better not. Yes, it really focused my mind because we were doing 2 hours stints. So Sarah would get up and do 2 hours, then I'd come up at 10 and do 2 hours, then she'd do 2 hours, and then we'd try and go down the village and get away from the computers entirely. But the big news this week that's fueled my fire about the writing is that, remember I told you about a website called yourwriteon.com where you can put your stuff up and get critiques.
Yes, don't tell us again because you've told us every week for about 10 weeks. We all know what You Write On does. Tell me what's happened.
Well, let me tell you the big news. Steph, my mate, has put her stuff up and she's now number 1 on You Write On.
Oh, well done, Steph.
I know. And
She's been writing longer than you, though, hasn't she, Nicola?
No, she has. No, I'm totally not jealous. I'm delighted.
Yeah.
But it means that when the development period closes on the 31st of October,
she'll be in the running.
Get reviewed by big publishing companies.
Very good. Very good.
I'm so excited for her.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Further than that, Teresa, who's another member of our writing group, she's had one of her short stories longlisted in a prestigious competition, but she's also had the organisers of the competition reach out to her and say that they would like to know more about her because she's obviously, pretty talented and they want to see if they can help her get a publishing deal.
Well, you know what's good about this? It's precisely the peer group one would want if one was you, because you're with people who are better than you, and that's always the way to improve.
Yes, they are much better than me. And you know what's really interesting about this from a law of attraction point of view?
Oh, go for it.
Well, we're about to celebrate our 1-year anniversary of doing Write Club the podcast.
Oh, brilliant.
Now, Write Club the podcast was formed initially that at least 2 of us wanted it to raise our profile in the publishing community and give us a bit of gravitas.
So it's achieved its goals. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but in the beautiful way of the law of attraction, it's achieved them obliquely.
Yes.
But because by having to have something to say about writing every week on Write Club the podcast, it's made us do more writing, and it's made us take more action than perhaps we otherwise would have done in terms of.
And so that's what I said 2 weeks ago. You do all you can from where you are with what you have, and the result you want comes from something completely different, adjacent. Yeah. Yes, well done. Brilliant.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so what's fueled your fire then?
Yeah, well, a short bit from me. I've done a lot of driving this week, and like you, we've had this beautiful weather, and we've got it again today, which is clear skies so we can see the moon, the sun beaming in through the windows right now. That's perfect driving weather for me. I love driving and driving in the sunshine, and I had time to notice, beautiful churches, and if I were a camera woman, I would have stopped the car and got out and taken the pictures. But when I eventually left where I've been based for the last 6 months, which was, I can't remember, to be honest, midweek, and gave back the key, which felt sort of final-ish and a bit mean, if I'm totally honest. But anyway, I did it. As I was driving to this nice little house where I'm staying, which is only about 20-25 minutes away, I started spontaneously singing in the car, Heather Small and M people, moving on out, moving on up, nothing can stop me. It just felt like moving on from that cold, dark place without central heating, without a safety net, because actually when you're house sitting, what you really want is a safety net, somewhere you can go back to in the middle. Yeah. It just felt like I was moving on out, but moving on up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, like you, you speak first, and then I've got one more tiny one there.
I was just going to say, you've always got a safety net in Greece.
It's not handy, is it, though?
Not very handy.
No, I can't pop to you for 4 days between gigs. And I was going to say, and of course, I listened again last night, having listened to it on one of my drives earlier in the week. It did fuel my fire, like you said.
Well, all the lovely messages.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, let's get on to focus of the week then.
Yeah. So this is a weird one. Let me try and actually what I've got to do is got to open up my email as well, because I put some notes. In the calendar for today. I've also got them on my crib sheet, but there was something in the notes for today I wanted to read out loud. So this one is either called Why Are Entrepreneurs So Annoying? Or it's called If You're Going to Buy the System, Follow the System.
Yeah. Let's call it Buy System, Follow System.
Yeah, I think we might have to. Yeah. Let me just get my notes here. What did they say?
Or even Buy System, Follow System, ?
We'll come back to that. There doesn't. I seem to have, because we've moved our call so many. Oh, here we go. Entrepreneurs are annoying, it says here. Let me see if that's the one that's got the notes in it. Yes. Why do entrepreneurs buy systems, brackets my low-carb coaching, the cleaning business, etc., and then make themselves fail by adapting the plan program to be anything but what they bought, which has already been proven to work? Wriggle and wriggle and wriggle and do anything but the work. Think it's different for me because. Tell me they are all right with carbs, it's just sugar they can't give up, when I reiterate over and over again that sugar is carbs. Adapt if you must. Fail to lose weight, yes, but do not try to pretend you're following the program, and do not call it low carb. So then I've written here, why are entrepreneurs so annoying? And then I put, you and I are both the same. It's our strength and our weakness. What does it mean? Is there any point in buying someone else's proven way if we insist on being a rugged individualist who operates outside all systems? Now, I do have more on this topic on my notes. Should entrepreneurs ever bother to buy a system? The lady where I'm staying today, I came over to see her on Monday to get the key, and she's much younger than me. She's in her 40s, but she's a serial entrepreneur. She's owned and run dance schools. She's been a clothes stylist. She's done software support, web design. She's been a freelancer. And her latest thing was to help people with marketing their businesses, which she does very well, but she's decided to stop doing it. She was doing it so well using long form writing on Facebook that I would point my clients at it. I was going to say, have you seen what X is doing? Go over there and look how she's marketing her business. She was so good at it. And when I asked why she was stopping doing this latest thing, which was marketing for other people, she said, because the clients are too annoying. They're too skint. They're too scarce. They don't understand what I'm achieving for them. They're not happy to pay for it. They're not giving me the credit for increasing their sales. They're giving it to something else because they didn't understand what I was doing. And she has one client who's exactly the opposite. And I tried to encourage her to see that if there was one, there would be others, but we reached another solution in the end. But her ideal client is a man who appreciates her expertise, who pays for it well, who pays for it fast, who trusts her to do what she's good at, but everybody else is too annoying. They're too rugged individually. They're too, I don't understand it, so you must be wrong. But she was just one example of something that I'd been giving thought to, which is, why do entrepreneurs buy, like people like us us listening, why do we buy solutions and systems and then deviate from them and blame them when blame what they've bought, when the fault, if there be any, and I'm not suggesting there is a fault here, the problem begins and ends with them, with us. As I've said, my examples of the cleaning business, where Emma and I had run it for 4 years before we sold licenses, and all you had to do was follow the How We Do It Here manual, and we trained them and we supported them and everything. And the same with the low carb coaching, not my business coaching. I'm going to explain why in a minute. My business, well, I'll do that now. My business coaching is different because they are creating their own unique business from scratch, often in their own name. So they can be as rugged individual as they like in that, and I would encourage it. They're not following a system there. They're working out how to create their own unique business. But if they then buy, marketing systems and then not turn up to the calls and not do the work, or whatever it is, there's sabotage by deviation, which means that the purchase is pointless and expensive, but more importantly, it's dispiriting for those of us serving them. So let me just finish my notes and then you can talk. I've put here, what's the solution? Is it making sure the client understands more clearly before they commit to what you offer? So what I wish I'd done now with the low carb coach was assess how ready they were to do the work. So anybody that's followed the very, very simple instructions, is skinny, sashaying about in a beautiful skin-tight frock which shows off their assets. Anybody that, the top third, they've got what they followed the instructions and they've got the results. But the bottom 2/3 are deviating and wriggling and can't. So I think anyone who's been around the block themselves and understands how annoying a customer has the potential to be, make a better client themselves because they value your time and expertise as separate from their own. And somebody I'm working with today who we both know is launching a marketing service to clients, sort of bespoke. She's surveying them today, and I'm thinking, oh, you're bringing an awful load of wrigglers into your life now. So you get the gist of what I'm asking, don't you, Nicola? Yeah. Go, tell me, why are entrepreneurs so annoying?
Well, as an entrepreneur myself, yes. I'm sure that I'm very annoying. I think
we all are. I think I am too. I mean, the point is, I'm not saying it's them. I think it's us as well. It's like, because we're so, what are we? We're so, you can't qualify the word unique, but because we're unique.
I think it's because we're creators. We're not happy. I mean, no. I look back to my jobs, none of which I lasted more than 18 months in, by the way. Yeah. Because I used to go in with massive energy, entrepreneur energy. They absolutely loved that. I always got the job. I went in with full of high hopes and energy to make things better, to make things more efficient, to improve things. I'd create fantastic new systems that everybody loved and most people loved working to. And then I'd bore myself senseless trying to stick to the systems I'd set up. And that was at the time when I needed to move on, because I'm a creator, and creators want to create systems and create businesses and create success, but they don't want to keep doing it over and over again, every day, every week, every month.
I get that, but you have also bought some trainings, for instance, which you've been quite diligent at following, very diligent at following, some that you have been less diligent at following. So what makes
I mean, I largely do. In fact, I now won't buy any trainings unless I know I'm going to really be able to devote the time and the energy to it and have no other distractions. Yeah. I did very well with my spirit business, the last one I bought, and it did get me the results, but I didn't finish it by any stretch of the imagination. The one I really did go through right to the bitter end and stick with for ages, about 2 years, was Traffic Genesis with Laura Betterley, because it completely changed my life being able to advertise on Facebook, because, as you know, I'd been banned from Google for a long time. Ironically, this week is the week I started my Google ads running again, as part of something I want to talk to you about next week. Perhaps.
Okay.
The other thing is I've made notes here because I was quite well prepared for this week.
Great.
It was ironic, actually, Judith. I sat there at 11:30 yesterday with my carefully prepared notes. I was even 2 minutes early,
and then you remembered I wasn't coming.
Yes. Totally forgot. But I've also written down here that the good news about all this is that you can create systems in your own business, then get other people to follow them. And even, I mean, I create rudimentary systems for myself and my clients, and then Sarah comes along and turns it into a proper process that can be documented. They're called standard operating procedures, or SOPs for short. But
if I could make that snoring noise, I would. At that point. Standing operating procedures. Oh God.
I know. But as an entrepreneur, you don't have to do them yourself. That's the whole point of hiring people to do the work, and then you get the people who are doing the work.
I wouldn't even want them in my life. I wouldn't want them in my life. Keep going. I mean, I totally get. Actually, it's not so much as an entrepreneur, that one. I think it's as a business owner. If you're working with people, you do need them and want them following the system. I agree.
You do, and you also need it documented so that if someone drops out suddenly, then you can bring in someone who's half competent, and they can follow the instructions that you haven't had to make.
Yeah.
But coming back to your low carb people, I think that's a different thing entirely. I think the problem there when you start a diet and you're all fired up, and you because remember, I stuck to Lighter Life for 5 months and I lost 5 stone, and I didn't deviate once. I didn't have a drink, I didn't have anything to eat, I didn't do any of the things. I drank the water that I was supposed to drink, and I totally stuck to it. And I've been trying to analyse ever since what made the difference with that. Well,
I know what made the difference. It's the same thing as my most successful woman says now, I was ready. So I need to make sure before they come, they're ready. And what's really interesting about this, because of course low carbing isn't the same as a diet. In fact, it's quite the opposite. But what's interesting is that the low carb people have paid 90 and 100 quid, and the cleaning business people paid £6,000. So it doesn't even matter what they pay. They're still looking to wriggle and not follow the system, which works and has been proved to work.
I think it's not even that they're ready. I think it's that they're feeling enough pain. I was simultaneously feeling pain, and I was also had an incentive to do it. I had a big incentive to do it, and it was.
Well, then that's what's good about what you've just said there, is you've got an away from and a towards.
Yes, and I think that's what you need. I've got an away from right now, but I haven't got a towards. Not one that's tangible.
I think I'm not going to offer anything to anybody ever again that isn't the one where they're allowed to be as creative as they like, because our listeners and ourselves, we're just not, we don't want to follow. There was a girl, I love this story. There was a girl at that, I think her name was Uta. She was German or something like that, and she was in our audience at that big conference we did at that stately home in November 2005 when my knees stopped working. I had a room full of creators and ideas people, and she put up her hand very bravely and said, what happens if you haven't got an idea? And I went, oh, you lucky thing, you just buy a system and follow it.
Yes. I always wished I could have bought a franchise and followed it, but I always knew that I would never follow it.
Well, let me tell you this. It's interesting you bring up the word franchise, because my first ever McDonald's was on Repulse Bay Beach in Hong Kong, and my second one was in Staines, Middlesex, and the experience was exactly the same. There's none of this is allowed at franchises like McDonald's. There's no deviating. The experience is exact, or Starbucks, the proper franchises, no deviation is allowed. But presumably they don't let the wrigglers, the entrepreneurs, buy in. They want managers, don't they?
Yes, they want people who want to follow.
They want people who want to follow the manual and can be trained to follow the manual, who probably only ever had jobs before, because it feels like a job to them, I think.
And lots of people just want a job.
I know. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, why are entrepreneurs so annoying?
Ourselves included.
Yes, I think yes, because if you think of the things we've bought over in our lives, some of them we've loved and followed mostly. I honestly couldn't put my hand on my heart and say anything that I bought I followed 100%, because I think I know better, because I think that's what an entrepreneur is. It's like, oh yeah, this is great, and I'm going to borrow from this, and I'm going to adapt it to me, but it's annoying.
But the other thing that we're not talking about here is most people don't take responsibility for their own actions and their own successes and their own outcomes. They think they do. But
I put that here. Sabotage by deviation is pointless and expensive.
Yeah.
And dispiriting for those of us that serve them.
Except we've got to, I know that's true. And I know that I've really struggled with this in the past, caring too much about whether people do the work and get the outcomes. But having a membership site has set me free, because A, it's much less expensive, and B, if people don't turn up, even if they turn up once, someone's just renewed a 6-month membership, and I've never heard from them once within the site. So I'm astonished that they've renewed their 6-month membership.
Let me tell you what I think's good about that. Remind me what the 6-month membership costs.
It's different prices depending when you bought it.
Roughly, between X and Y.
It's about $800 because
Right, so it's a relatively small spend, okay? And when Marion and I ran the ABC coaching group together in 2007, I think it was £79 a month. You got quite a lot for it. And when people spend a relatively small sum of money, they don't need to get 100% bang for their buck. So they always came to we had a sort of twice a year do in London. They always came to the party, and some would and some wouldn't turn up in the for their monthly call. They had an individual monthly call, and some of them wouldn't turn up because £79 to some people, it doesn't really matter whether you turn up or not. But what's interesting with the cleaning business, it was £6,000. But anyway, that's not the point. Let me finish. So in my 2 business coaching groups now, they all play differently. Really, both of them are about time with me, and there are add-ons, and I don't care whether they take advantage of the add-ons or not. Some do, some don't. I'm not attached to that at all. But I think, and I also think our clients are grown up enough to decide what's the meat, what's the value here for me. Let me take advantage of that and not be overwhelmed by the rest.
Yeah. I think this person is probably reading the stuff, reading the discussions in the forum and listening to the recording, watching.
A lurker, you mean? A lurker. Yeah,
they're probably getting all the value they need.
Yes, right. Now, that's an important point. That's a really important point because that's their choice. If they're getting the value they need, then they'll buy another 6 months, won't they?
Well, they just have.
But you know what my thought was? My thought was, I think people think, I haven't got around to it yet, but if I buy another $800 worth, I probably will.
That's is it like insurance, isn't it? So they've still got it available to them.
Yeah, because actually, how many of us have bought into things where we've let the payment go for ages before we finally admit, well, like a gym's a good example, before you finally admit, I'm never going to do this, let me stop.
Well, this lady or gentleman, and that's how interesting this is. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman because the name on the PayPal account doesn't match any name in my mailing list.
I think that's quite normal these days, isn't it?
Yeah, but it means that I've had to set them up in my membership site and send the login details to the PayPal account and address and hope it's getting through to them, which obviously was all they wouldn't have renewed because I had to they had to manually renew this time. It wasn't on an automated renewal. So they had to find my email, read my email, open my email, renew through PayPal. And I still don't know what their actual name is. I've had to put the name of the member in and the name of the member and the email of the member in the membership site and in PayPal does not correlate to anyone on my mailing list.
No. And have you asked the person, who are you in my?
Yes.
I would. Yes.
Yes, I have, and they haven't
replied. No. Okay, they're a non-responder. Okay.
But they're still in there, presumably getting their value, or they wouldn't have paid it to renew again.
Well, presumably, yes.
Anyway,
it's not quite the same, though, is it? It's, it's. I think the question I want everybody to ask themselves, and for you and I to ask ourselves as well, and not necessarily answer, but just think on it. If I would consider myself to be a creator or a scanner or an entrepreneur, why am I buying other people's systems if I intend just to deviate?
I think I know the answer. The answer for me is because I work better with a simple framework, and by buying someone's system, they've done a lot of the thinking, heavy lifting for me, and I can just start to follow their framework and base my actions around their framework. And then when I reach the point where my business deviates, I can just go off and do my own thing.
You can adapt it, yeah. Yeah.
That's why I buy systems.
Okay. I think the crucial bit then for me is the point at which we all decide to deviate. Because in the example you've just given, that's fine. But if we deviate too soon or bend it to fit or say this doesn't work for me or something before we've given it a good go, we're just a wriggly wriggler.
Yeah. And I do actually have a action-based guarantee on my annual membership.
Yes, no, I think that's good. Action-based is brilliant. Yeah,
because I don't want people to say this isn't for me, not having given it a go.
Mm.
That's what annoys me more than anything.
That's really getting them to face up to their part in the deal, I think, which is rather good.
We've got to turn up, at least.
Yes, yes.
Minimum requirement, you turn up occasionally.
Okay, so let me throw this challenge down to the listener, anybody that's in our Facebook group. What's the answer to this? Why are entrepreneurs so annoying?
I love that. We could go with that as a title, in fact.
I think we should. I think it's more interesting. And I think if you recognise that in yourself or in others, do you have an explanation? Does it matter actually? Or will even this discussion stop you buying a system if you know you're unlikely to follow it in future?
Yeah, good one. Okay, what's your word of the week then?
Well, following on from that, it's idiosyncratic, because that's what we are. We're I didn't even look up the definition. While you tell me your week, I'll just look up the definition. I know what it means, but I'm going to just double check. You go.
Well, mine is contingency, because I like to have plans, but I also like to have contingencies. And we had to.
What's the difference?
Well, a contingency is a backup plan.
Oh, so plan B.
Yeah.
So you have plan A.
Plan B, which I'm never going to follow. Plan B, which I'm unlikely to follow. And plan C, which is probably not even in my head, even at a subconscious level, but pops up when I need it, when I'm not following the other plans.
You are a weirdo. So you have plans even though you have no intention of following them.
Well, you're going to start somewhere, haven't you?
Mm. Okay, right. So idiosyncratic is distinctive, individual, characteristic, peculiar, different, special. I think that's it. We think we're different and special. Unique, personal, private, essential. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer, actually. It's because, one size doesn't fit all.
No, you have to just create what you think is going to work for most people, don't you? And then your little, thinking about programs and things, your little stars rise to the top, and they're often the people who most surprise you.
Yes, well, not in my low carb, interestingly, but I suppose the people that rise to the top of a system is somebody who can make it work for themselves, or just does what the system recommends. That's the weird thing, is that this could solve your problem, but you won't operate it.
Yeah, looking back on Lighter Life, it was a very prescriptive system. I stuck to it. I got the results, and as soon as I started getting results, I carried on sticking to it, and there was no wiggle room. And then you had to turn up as well every week and talk about, what was happening.
So are you saying we'd be doing, if we were the offerers of systems, we'd be doing them a favour if we was as strict as all anything?
Yes, but you can't force people. They have to want it. They have to have a reason why, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, project updates then.
You go first.
Okay, I've got quite a bit to talk about on this one.
Oh, good.
So last year I was selling memberships hand over fist, and around summer this year that stopped, but I didn't notice for a little while. And I'd like to say why you didn't notice, and I'd like to say why what you said 2 or 3 weeks ago about your income dropped. The reasons why was because you were working with Jane and Pete. Yeah, well, it was that, but that's what I took my attention off. But when I'm now refocusing on it, I've realised that I've done 3 things. I changed 3 things all at once, which is daft, and I've talked about it before, I think, on the show, which is I made a website. I bought a separate domain name for Clicks and Leads Academy and made a new website. Instead of having it just cobbled together on my own site and private pages, I upped the price a little bit, although people have bought since then, so that can't be it entirely. And I also stopped doing my V-zine, so I stopped the V-zine because when I looked at the numbers, there's only been about 350 people on YouTube have watched V-zine 1, and that was a year and a half ago or something. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I'm not getting much traction with this. It takes a lot to do. It costs a bit to pay Phoebe to do the editing. I'm going to take a month break from it as we took my first ever month break. But what I found it very hard to get back on the horse again, and so I changed the website URL and the website. I stopped doing the V-zine because I thought it wasn't getting any traction or bringing any traffic, and what was the other thing I did? Put the price up, and I did all 3 things at once, so I don't know which ones had the most impact. So I'm putting things back. I'm re-putting the sales page back onto my own website. I'm restarting the V-zine. I've renegotiated with Phoebe, and I'm going to do a slightly different format. And I'm not going to put the price down yet, because it's not about the price. It's about the value, and it's about how you market it. So don't do that, people. Don't change more than one thing at once, and otherwise you'll have to put it all back, because you won't be able to tell which thing's the thing that's made the difference for good or evil. And that's my project update.
Okay. So my project update is to do with my life, not to do with my business. Well, last, whenever it was in the middle of the week when I moved from previous Chile base to where I am today, I had to put every single thing that I own in the back of my car, walking up and down the same tarmac path that had tripped me up on the previous Friday when I was bruised. And then when I got here, I had to unload it again because the lady where I'm staying said she thought it probably wasn't safe to leave all my possessions in the car for a week. So they're all in the hall, so that I haven't put them anywhere, so I know exactly what to put back in the car. But I have to repeat that next Wednesday. I've put everything I own in the back of the car, drive it to London, take it out of the car again. And and today I was supposed to be driving 130 miles to London and back for my niece's flat warming party. And after I'd already warned her I probably wouldn't be able to do it because I have to do that same journey again on Wednesday, and I just didn't think I could do it. And that was even before the sleeplessness and the fall. So I'm giving myself a week off next week from Club 100 and Small Business Big Magic to get over all of this and sort myself out for 6 months, nearly 6 months up in London. It's beginning to tire me out, this endless dragging everything you own into and back of the car. And actually it's very good, the fact that it's very tiring, because it makes you more draconian about the dumping of stuff, if you know what I mean. Yeah. If you've got to carry it, and I know there's, due to the shortage of space where I've been for the last 6 months, there are 2 suitcases I haven't even opened. So, frankly, they could just go to the tip if that was allowed, but it's not. I'm still pondering whether 2019 will be a sabbatical, perhaps a writing year. When I was doing something yesterday, I think it was writing this week's newsletter, I got quite mushy about the 2014 year where I blogged every day. I felt, I don't always feel the pull to do that. In fact, I haven't done any blogging really, apart from our weekly podcast for ages. I work with a lot of writers these days, and I feel the pull to do that. Alice is going to host a cash flow game in January, and another client has offered to do the same as well. I'm never going to abandon my existing clients, and you'll be interesting to know that I did find a solution in the end for the one we discussed last week, where we were argy-bargying before I took them on. I realised actually it wasn't me. It wasn't a coach they wanted, it was a consultant. So they were the 2 ladies that wanted to be coached 2-on-1, and I just wasn't happy about that. And it filled my heart with dread. But I woke up after I arrived here, it might have been full moon night or the next night, where I realised what it was that they wanted. Actually, what they want is one of your traction coaches to follow a system. That's what they want. They want a system. Hello. There's that snoozing noise again. System. I was honest. I was totally honest. I sent them a thing saying, this is what I think. Don't think coach, think consultant, and make it all about your, turnover increases that you want. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, that traction system for
Well, they wanted a system. They wanted to plan. Yeah. Oh, God. Well, you don't want me, because that's not what I do.
This work 2-on-1, can you? You need to be one.
Well, not coaching, you can't, no. Because it would be like herding cats, to be honest.
Yeah. And especially in an hour, you wouldn't get down to the nitty-gritty at all.
No, if they had one specific problem, which they sort of did, and then it morphed, I could do them an ad hoc session on that. I mean, I've worked as an accountant with lots of 2-woman partnerships where I could help them by standing in the middle.
Coming back to the whole, digital nomad thing, I think it's got a very glamorous reputation, but I think it takes a certain kind of fortitude to do it constantly when you're moving on as frequently as you are.
Well, one of our listeners, Andrea Jordan, who lives in New Zealand at the moment, but has done it all over the world, the entirety of Latin America since I've known her in the last 4 years, she never sugarcoated it. So I knew that it was hard at times. A woman on her own, and Andrea is so much fitter than me, although she has had some sort of physical sports injury type stuff, which have made her cry at times. And she's much braver than me. She does farm animals and loads of stuff, but she's never sugarcoated it. So I was never under any, false impression that it was going to be easy. My heart goes out to that woman often, and she's very truthful in our I Love My Life group about just how difficult it is and how wonderful it is. It's like a life, isn't it? Everywhere I go, there are new things. So, for instance, you'll think I'm a bit barking, but one of the things I like about this house I'm in, apart from the central heating, is that the bathroom has a window in it.
Oh, that's always a plus.
Well, I love a bathroom with a window in it. Now, people who've never lived in a flat won't understand why that's so brilliant. It's because you don't have to have that whizzy, noisy light thing on that extracts the damp and the whatever from the bathroom. So you can be peaceful and in natural light in your bath. I mean, heaven.
Well, I only shower, but we've got natural light in our bathroom, but we also have an extractor, which is, as you say, the noise drives us absolutely bonkers.
If you're sensitive at all to noise, not having that, if you live on your own, of course, you can just have the door open.
Yeah.
And you'll probably remember that in my flat in London, the bathroom was right opposite the front door. So I wouldn't often run that thing. I would just have the doors. I didn't shower with the front door open, but after I'd been in the room, I would leave the door open and open the front door, and the sunshine would sort it out. But I do remember a estate agent visiting saying, well done you that your bathroom isn't damp. So clearly those noisy things don't mostly solve the problem.
Yeah, and the only thing is about letting the condensation go through into the rest of the flat. You can get damp in other places, which is a bit...
Well, I never had damp in London because I had the central heating on high all of the time, but I've had a lot of damp in my life in the last 6 months. Now, I don't want to moan because I'm totally grateful to the woman that gave me a home for 6 months. But what I find is, going back to this nomading thing, it is tough, but there are compensations wherever you go if you can look for them. And sometimes you've got to look for them. It's like, this week I've been in pain and it's like, oh, God. It's harder to look for them when you're in pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I would constantly be drawing up a for and against list. In fact, we did one for Sarah last week in sitting in a cafe acting because, she's trying to decide whether she wants to carry on with it as well.
I'm very nervous, I'll tell you now, and then this time next week I'll be able to report whether I've hallucinated, why I need to be nervous or not. But my recollection of the house in London is that it's got a very steep set of stairs without banisters and without a tread that's deep enough for my big plates of meat. So I'm slightly nervous that the next home will be a bit dangerous for me with my dodgy knees. But I may have misremembered that or not paid enough attention when I was walking up. I certainly got up and down it, but I remember not wanting to go up it a second time. So let's see.
Well, fingers crossed for that. Can you just come back to something? You said something along the lines of taking a sabbatical and then probably talked about all the things you would do if you did.
Yeah, I'm ready again. I'm ready again. I haven't had a holiday since 2010.
You mean from doing what?
From everything.
So you just write, but you wouldn't take on new clients?
I wouldn't take on new clients. I'd continue to look after my existing ones.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Well, let's see how that unfolds. So who or what's impressed?
Want to go first? Or what, is yours a happy, upbeat one or what?
It's a quite a happy, upbeat one.
So do you want to end on happy and upbeat? Mine is... Yes, okay. So on Tuesday night when I went out to have supper with my second cousin, I think that's the right word. Are the children of your first cousins your second cousin?
Asking me this.
So I don't know, to be honest. So my cousin Bert's son, Jack, and his beautiful wife, Sarah, he's got his own business and he wanted me to look at his accounts and tell me, and funnily enough, I remember doing the same thing for his father about 30 years ago. He wanted me to say, was the accountant any good? What did the accounts actually mean? And Sarah, who has dated an accountant and actually worked in an accountant's office, said to me at one point, I've learned more in the last 5 minutes than ever before. Because, of course, I'm brilliant at speaking client, which accountants are not. Not only that, but the poor girl had been horribly, and they're living in a building site while they make their own, what's going to be a beautiful home. And she's got a belter of a baby boy who's about 1. And this accountant had patronised her. And without a word of a lie, his strap line on LinkedIn is helping clients pay more tax. Now, I see where he's coming from. What he's saying is, making you more profitable because then you'll pay more tax. But actually, nobody wants to pay more tax. Well, that's not quite true, but it's a strange reverse thinking. This is all irrelevant, really, except that I swore to them that night, Tuesday night, that I couldn't bear to listen to Jeremy Vine. But when I was, because it's the public phone in and it's moaning and it's chat radio and I can't bear all of that. And I don't like the man that goes before him on Radio 2, either Ken Bruce. And I was going to ask the internet, Facebook, what do you think about Ken Bruce? Who still likes Ken Bruce? But then I realised when I turned on the radio, Ken wasn't on, he was on holiday. And Jeremy wasn't on either, it was Vanessa Feltz. Now, Vanessa Feltz is a strange creature, but she's a very, very bright woman who went to Oxford or Cambridge or both. And on the radio, she comes across as very intelligently indeed. And she was interviewing the woman who's impressed me, a woman called Jo Berry, whose father was killed by the IRA in the 1984 Brighton bombing at the Tory party conference. And she was 20-ish and into meditation when the father died, and they didn't always get on. So that reminded me of my father, really. That, when I was in my 20s and exploring alternative stuff and he was kind of straight up and down, he didn't quite get me. But this is not the first story I've heard, but it was the story I heard this week of a bereaved relative who has befriended the killer of their loved one. Patrick McGee was the only IRA person convicted of the bombing. And then he was later released from prison as part of the Good Friday Agreement. And today, he and Joe travel the world in the name of peace and reconciliation, which was a terribly moving interview. I think I was in tears by the end. They've been on this journey. She sought to resolve her own feelings of anger and grief through forgiveness of the man that did it and understanding, trying to understand the other side. And they've been on this journey together, literally and metaphorically, and I was profoundly moved by it. And I'll put a link in the thing. And the show runs from 12 till 2, and it's somewhere between 1 and 1:30, so at least an hour into the show. And there's another woman I met whose father was not met, but heard on the radio, whose father was killed with a bullet to the head in Jerusalem, and she did exactly the same thing. She went and found his killer. And Lord Longford used to do this. Forgiveness is the only way to cure yourself of the anger and other difficult feelings that will give you cancer and shorten your life, and also give you the sort of life you don't want. Hatred and I don't know what I mean. If you didn't find forgiveness and release it, and you didn't understand the other person, and you spent your whole life hating the man that you didn't know that had killed your father, that's not a life anybody wants to live, is it?
No. It's interesting because I'm obviously working with Jane, who's secretartfuna.com.
Yes.
And we've just literally uploaded a healing forgiveness meditation onto her site this week because I've found that the 6-phase meditation I do with Vishnu Lakhani, the first part of that is forgiveness. And it's really astonishing who pops into your head. And I know that forgiving myself, Steve,
it's definitely got to start with yourself. Yeah,
I had to forgive Steve quite a lot, and I've had to forgive myself quite a lot. But that's all helped me move forward with.
Well, it's very healing. That's the point.
Yeah,
and now they're a source for good in the world. They travel the world in the name of peace and reconciliation, and actually, and people have said to them, just meeting you and hearing you talk means I can go off and do something which isn't nearly as difficult, but which will heal our lives.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. So my experience this week, which wouldn't have happened unless we had to delay the recording, because I had someone lined up to talk about who was, very, very impressive, but not as relevant to our listenership, I think, as the person I'm going to talk about now. Have you been watching Magical Numbers on BBC?
No, but my cousin Jane told me about it on Monday.
Oh, absolutely stunning! It's this. Well, she's a professor of mathematics in cities and various other high-flying things. She only looks about 12 and a half. It's called Magic Numbers. Her name is Hannah Fry, and it's Her Mysterious World of Maths. And it's about, I think it's 3 episodes. And she's doing for maths what Professor Cox did for physics. She's making it simple, easy to understand-ish, and very magical indeed, and making maths sexy. And I highly recommend it. It's on BBC.
Well, you're preaching to the choir here, aren't you?
Well, it's funny. I'm looking at this and it says BBC 4 here, but something else I read said it was on BBC 5. So
I'll double check. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I can see it's on BBC 4.
Okay.
You're preaching. Yeah, I know, but I find it. I started watching it because I'm writing this sci-fi book, and I thought there might be some interesting things in it, that I could use in the book, and lo and behold, of course, there is.
It's all about how nature is quite mathematical as well, isn't it? Things like shells and leaves and things all follow these formulae. Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying it. Highly, highly recommend it. And she's a very lively presenter. She was also one of the presenters on Cities in the Sky. That thing we watched about all the planes moving around the world.
Oh, yes, lovely.
Yeah, we like that too, didn't we?
We do. We like sort of light science. Light accessible science is what we like.
Some could say science for dummies, but I wouldn't.
Science light, yeah. Now, before you go, but when you've ended the recording, I need to talk to you. It's all right. It's nice. I'm not going to tick you off or anything.
No, good. The thought hadn't crossed my mind, Julie.
Oh, good.
Let's say goodbye to everyone. Then.
Okay. See you next week. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitpodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.